Hi, this is Ralph Moss, and I wanted to report on my 1 month completion of 1 month of radiation therapy for my prostate cancer. And thank those of you who've sent me letters and notes and emails. Thanks for your well wishes and your suggestions, some of which I've acted on. Um, Basically, it wouldn't be the radiation itself isn't really that bad. I mean, I won't say enjoyable, but it's sort of a non-event. You just lie on a table and the machine kind of whirls around you, and it's over in a few minutes. But the difficult part for me is, so far, is this whole business of dealing with your excretory functions, clearing your bowels and filling your bladder, which is done to protect your internal organs. Sounds a little bit easier than it is, because you have to sort of hit it just right and have a certain number of ounces of liquid in your bladder, which is a fairly rigorous requirement. So this is where my struggle has been mostly. Plus, I'm sure that there is some strain, let's say, being put on my internal organs. I don't want to get too graphic with all of this, but you could read up on this on the internet. It's a daily struggle, and the hardest part for me is getting the bladder filled and then keeping it like that for, I don't know, all told 20, 30 minutes, getting it so that it's not intolerable. But I managed to do this. I only missed 1 day of treatment when I just sort of miscalculated and overdrank the amount of water or liquid, tea, whatever it was that I was drinking. So, getting through that. And of course, that the radiation does a lot of damage, and you want it to. I mean, that's the whole goal and the whole point of it. But you don't want that damage you want to minimize that amount of damage to your healthy tissue, to the normal tissue. And the doctors are very skeptical about antioxidants in particular. And in order to, have an honest relationship with them, I haven't been taking mega doses of anything. But I did want to share with you how I am approaching the question of side effects, because some of which I have and some of which I'm trying to prevent. And I did an interesting thing. I assembled like all of the things that I'm taking or thinking of taking, and I fed that into an artificial intelligence program. It wasn't Chat GPT. It was something, another AI called Perplexity, but it could have been any of those. I have 4 or 5 of them at my fingertips, and I can use them or choose not to use them. And Ben and I have done a video on the perils and some of the pitfalls involved in using AI in terms of researching cancer. So you'll look for that. What I asked the AI to do was to come up with a timeline or sample timeline for me, and we can publish this. This is just for me. I'm not recommending this for anybody else. I mean, I'm not just saying that to disclaim responsibility. It's just actually geared towards my own symptoms, or as I say, maybe preventatively. But basically, what it did, and it was also checking for conflicts between the things that I'm taking and between what the doctor's doing in terms of radiation, which was very helpful. I didn't really find many, because as I say, I'm putting very heavy emphasis on food stuff or food-derived things, and not really taking that I can, off the bat, can think of anything that would be classified as an antioxidant supplement. So here's, very briefly, and I can talk about this at greater length at some point, here's what I'm doing. So at 7 a.m., around 7 a.m., I take aloe vera juice on an empty stomach, and I'll hold up the products. I pulled them off my shelf. So, and I did research this with Consumer Lab at consumerlab.com, and this is their preferred brand. That's their top pick for aloe vera. And it's really very, very nice, very easy to take. I was always leery about, maybe I had some bad experiences with aloe veras in the past, but this is a whole leaf filtered, and it has a little bit of lemon juice in it, and that's the taste of it. It's basically like a lemony water, not much more than that. It's not very thick, or, some of the aloe vera products, as I say, were very viscous and not pleasant at all. No, this is an easy one. I'm taking 2 ounces of that on an empty stomach, and this is for general health and well-being of the gastrointestinal tract. And how much can you tell by just taking something for a short while? But I do feel that it agrees with me, so I will continue doing that. The next thing that I do is something I've written and talked about before. We did a video on this, and that's Pectisol. Pectisol is modified citrus pectin. So it's the pith and the peel of the citrus fruits that have been modified in 3 different ways, which is heat and acidity, like an acid bath, and then the pH is adjusted with this. And so it's been changed chemically, broken down chemically, so that it is exactly the right size molecule to pass through the gut. And it contains a substance that counteracts galectin-3, which is a major natural substance in the body, but that's a major source of inflammation. And there is clinical trial data on this, and we talk about that in the video that Ben and I did. So I have a greater sense of assuredness about the Pectisol and its anti-cancer effects than I do about a lot of other products. And that I take, you're supposed to take that on an empty stomach. I put that in a beverage in the morning. So for instance, tea or coffee, and according to the AI program, even putting a small amount of creamer, half and half, let's say, into the coffee or the coffee substitute would not interfere with the action of the Pectisol. But you want to get it as much away from other foods as possible, because they will interfere with its absorption. Then I have my breakfast. These days, I'm trying to do very mild breakfast, like, for instance, cheese omelet. I find that, it's very pleasant, but it's not something that's going to irritate me, because at this point, by the time I'm doing my breakfast, I want to minimize any sort of aggravation that would make it more difficult for me to hold all that water that they're asking me to hold in my bladder. With the breakfast, I'm taking an unusual product that actually, to be honest, I hadn't even heard of before I got into this radiation business, and that is Swedish flower pollen. And it may sound a little weird, but it's actually pretty well researched. There's some clinical data, but there's a lot of scientific evidence for the beneficial effect of this on prostate, specifically for benign hyperplasia of the prostate, but just prostate health in general. And it says supports prostate function and healthy urine flow. So, again, not to get too graphic about this, but having the good control of your urine and your excretion is super important in this whole process. So I'm taking some of this. These are just little, they have no taste to them. They're little compressed tablets, and you take 3, I think it's 3 a day, something like that is the normal dose of that. So I take these. This you want to take with food. The next thing is something that I normally take, which is OptiFiber, which is the Costco brand of Beta Fiber, and so that's something that you can add. It's just a good, healthy thing to do for your gut, and it feeds the healthy probiotics. And then Midday, I take my somewhere around here, my immune supporting smoothie. And the formula for this is in my book, Morse Method, and it's a mixture of mostly of fruit, berries, and acerola, and very importantly, the pomegranate powder, a big anti-cancer activity for pomegranate. Again, some antioxidants in that, but it is a food. That's just the juice, powdered juice, and I think we have an agreement with my radiation oncologist that, foods in general are not problematic, even if, of course, most fruits and vegetables contain some antioxidants, but it's not so concentrated, and we're not using so much of it. And then after that, I take my chamomile tea, which I'm sipping on here. Very calming for the bladder and for the body in general. And into the chamomile tea, I put the Morse Method, which is a formula that our company, and Ben and I, created, and that contains 7 different mushrooms, which are made up in a very special way that is explained at our website. And it's a dietary supplement, but again, it's basically the actual foods, these different kinds of mushrooms, which are, a lot of which have been heavily researched in China and in Japan, as well as some in the West. So there's a glycerol in there. It's not glucose, it's glycerol, so it doesn't raise your blood sugar as much as, as most sweeteners would, and it imparts a very nice flavor to the chamomile tea, and it's perfect vehicle for that. And then the only pharmaceutical that I'm taking is tamsulosin, which is Flomax. And again, this is part of that whole process of controlling the flow of the urine and so forth. And this is actually goes to work pretty fast. Within a day, I was already having beneficial effects from this. My radiation oncologist prescribed that, and I had a little trouble with that initially because I thought maybe this was what was, that one day that I missed because of the, not being able to modulate this bladder issue. But now it seems to be working fine for me. So I take that in the evening. And finally, some other things that I do, a couple of things very specific to general health issues, but just to be complete, Beano, if I'm having a meal that has, a lot of potential for forming gas. This is a really good product that my ophthalmologist recommended, which is Oasis Tears Plus, preservative-free lubricant eye drops. I used to take a homeopathic formula, but now I'm taking that because the FDA banned the homeopathic one. I mentioned the chamomile tea. I did a little taste test on different chamomile teas, and by far this one came out the best in my taste test for me and my family. And melatonin, every night, 3 milligrams, which helps with sleep, which is super important. And finally, Calendula cream, which is a homeopathic product, but very effective for any sore areas. So that's it. That's my regimen. Got me through 1 month, and about one more month to go, and I'll be done with this ordeal. But I'm holding up fine, as you can see, and really looking forward to ringing that bell at the that they have at the radiation center, which means you've completed your treatment. I thought it was really corny. Now I'm I'm into it. I'm eager to hear that bell ring. So anyway, doing well, and I will continue to keep you informed of my progress. So for now, this is Ralph Moss.